So who is starting the meeting?
I'm doing that, ma'am.
Is it good? Is that chair? Is it good?
Yeah. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want to welcome you all.
Good morning.
Yes, ma'am. I want to welcome you to the first FRS Taxpayer Engagement Webinar Series in 2023. My name is Oshadare. I'll be moderating this webinar this morning. Today, we are looking at the theme, the impact of FRS digital innovation in tax administration. It is crystal clear that tax administration world over is constantly changing as a result of changing the business environment and human interaction, which has become very complex. Hence, the need for various tax authorities to evolve in more innovative ways to mitigate these challenges cannot be overemphasized. The service has carried out a lot of innovative reforms to change the face of tax administration in Nigeria. And some of these reforms has culminated into the service collecting a whopping sum of more than 10.1 trillion naira in 2022. And it is expected that this upward trajectory will continue in 2023 and even better. So this webinar, we shall be looking at the overview of the impact of FRS digital innovation in tax administration. We shall also look at the highlights of updated VAT filing returns on TaxProMax and getting your tax clearance certificate in 1 minute. Once again, I want to welcome the panelists and the speakers, and of course, our critical stakeholders, the taxpayers, to this webinar section. It's going to be a loaded section. And after the presentation, we will give opportunity for the participant to ask. We are going to take live questions as much as we can take. And we also crave the indulgence of the participants to make use of the question bar and send in their questions. And at the appropriate time, we are going to respond to those questions with the time available to us. So once again, I want to welcome you. I want you to sit back and enjoy this webinar. On this note, without much ado, I would like to welcome the host of this webinar. That's the Director, Taxpayer Service Department, Mrs. Saadatu Yero, for her opening remarks. My director.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wisdom. The Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Coordinating Directors of the Service, Directors and Head of Departments, tax practitioners, and our external stakeholders, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to this Taxpayer Engagement webinar series titled, The Impact of Digital Innovation in Tax Administration. The impact of digital innovation in tax administration cannot be overemphasized. Digital tools enable tax administrations to be more organized and efficient, both in combating abuse and improving the quality service delivery and voluntary tax compliance. One of the cardinal goals of the Executive Chairman, Federal and Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Muhammad Nami, is for the service to be data-centric. In furtherance to the administration of the present chairman, he has brought about a lot of digital innovations for improved service delivery. Today's webinar is focused on the digital innovation that enables taxpayers to get their tax clearance certificates, TCC, in 1 minute, and the updated VAT filing procedures on the TaxProMax solution. This is in our continuous efforts to build trust and increase citizen willingness to pay taxes. Our panelists are experienced tax professionals and administrators who are more than ready to provide robust insight and clarification to our questions. I welcome you once more, and I wish everyone a successful deliberation throughout the duration of the webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, the Director of Taxpayer Service Department, for that wonderful remarks. We crave for indulgence to invite the Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, and the Chairman Joint Tax Board, who is already with us, so that you can bring him on board for his keynote address. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. On this note, I have the privilege to invite our Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, and also the chief host of this webinar, Mr. Mohammed Nami, for his welcome address. You are welcome, sir.
Okay. Good morning, our esteemed taxpayers, my colleagues from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the CDs, that is the coordinating directors on call, the group leads, the directors, particularly Saadatu, who is our host for the first webinar for the year 2023. Let me welcome you all to this very important interactive session and to thank you as taxpayers, tax consultants, staff of the FRS, other external stakeholders for the support you gave us in the year 2022. The year 2022 was critical, and I have to appreciate you because we set a new collection records as a service. We were, because of your support, because of the trust you have in the government, the trust you have in the FRS, and the belief that we as citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria are the only people that are responsible for building a prosperous country. We achieved over 10.1 trillion of collection, which was about 66% over the collection that we recorded in the year 2021. The speed is also due to, it's not just due to our collective effort as the service, particularly the creative application of technology. We received the support that we never have ever received before as a service from both the executive and the legislature. And to be specific, the deployment of the TaxProMax, that is our in-house developed solution for end-to-end automation of tax administration process since June 2021, was a game changer. With the solution, taxpayers are beginning to experience ease of registration and now explain ease of tax filing and payment and issuance of receipts, particularly withholding tax credits, and the most recent one in the year 2023, which is filing, processing your tax clearance certificate without necessarily visiting us. While the service experienced greater efficiency in deployment of resources and reporting, thereby leading to improved revenue, it is fundamental that FRS plays a strategic role in the architecture of the nation's political economy, funding good governance, and socio-economic development. Hence, FRS 2020 target is over 12 trillion naira. This is why I'm keen to hear today the progress that we have made internally, and we also will be grateful to get feedback from all our stakeholders, both internal and external, on what we need to do more to serve you better. I reaffirm that FRS is ready to proactively support any initiative that you will suggest to further improve the deployment of technology so that it is the work we do, and also support you in your voluntary compliance ability. As a customer-centric institution, we want to make the burden of tax paying as easy as possible. I once again applaud taxpayers and thank all other stakeholders for the support that they've given us in the year 2022, and wish ourselves a successful deliberation today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. The Executive Chairman, Federal Revenue Service. The man some of all referred to as a game changer when it comes to revenue tax administration in Nigeria, not just only in Nigeria, but in West Africa. We are happy to have you here, sir. Thank you very much for that keynote address. Without much ado, we'll take the first presentation. The first presentation will come from the group lead, Digital Innovation and Support Group, Mrs. Chiaka Ben-Obi. She'll be taking us through the overall, the overview of the impact of digital innovation in tax administration, in Nigeria. Ma, we want to have you on board as you take us through the overview. Thank you, ma.
Hello.
Thank you very much, Wisdom. First, let me say good morning and acknowledge the presence of the Executive Chairman FRS on the forum. I also want to say good morning to my colleagues present online and all the participants. Please allow me to stand on the existing protocol already established by the Director, Taxpayer Service, who is our host in this webinar event. My presentation is just to give us an overview of the impact of FRS digital innovation in tax administration, which has been touched on a bit by the Executive Chairman in his welcome address. However, let me start with saying, first of all, what really do we understand by digital innovation? I will then share briefly the FRS experience and impact it has had on FRS mandates, especially on collection. Briefly discuss the pros and cons, and then the challenges with implementation. I will also give a high-level roadmap on where we are heading to with our core solution, which is the TaxProMax. So as a way of introduction, a lot of definition has been given for what digital innovation is all about. However, I'm taking all encompassing to say digital innovation is just all about technology realignment. It is a new investment in automation initiatives, business models, and processes to more effectively compete in the ever-changing digital world. The changes provided by rapid advancement in technology has led to an enhancement in connectivity, financial inclusion, evolving customer expectations, thereby putting enormous pressure on organizations to deliver real-time personalized services to stakeholders. This is why tax administrations like FRS are also employing technology in one form or the other to automate its processes, to better manage compliance, increase, protect, and sustain the tax base, and reduce administrative burden. Therefore, the main object of FRS embracing digital innovation, which I will call digitalization now, is mainly to improve taxpayer experience, strengthen the institution, increase the revenue generation capability, and ultimately the economic development in Nigeria. Therefore, ensuring the FIRS experience, I will start with offering convenience and improved services to taxpayers. And this we did by deploying electronic services. Electronic services as it relates to registration of taxpayers, and this includes non-resident taxpayers, filing solution, then payments, as well as issuance of receipts and withholding credits, stamp duty, tax clearance certificates, and utilization of withholding credits during the time of filing. We also have opened different channels for payments to allow the taxpayers choice, be it InterSwitch, eTransact, Remitter, and then NIPS. This provides options of payment for the taxpayer. We're also integrating with different sectors so as to track and deduct VAT payments at source, ensuring prompt remittance to FIRS designated account in CBN. Some of the sectors that have been operationalized and in use are financial services, hospitality sector, branded retail outlets, cable and wireless, and we still have a few sectors that is work in progress. We're also interchanging data with third-party MDAs and others, such as for MDAs, it will be with, it is with CAC, Nigerian Customs Service, CBN, Federal Ministry of Trade and Industry with regards to the trade portal and BPP. We are also exchanging information with financial institutions as well as the OECD countries. We've enabled all social media platforms for ease of taxpayer education, sensitization, and brand management. We're very active. We have a very active website. We also are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and actively engaging with taxpayers. Some of the areas, like I mentioned, our core mandate is on collection. Therefore, let me use the collection impact to illustrate how digitalization has impacted tax administration for FIRS. And I'm taking a comparison from 2014 to 2022, as at December 31, 2022. In 2014, FIRS was majorly still depending on oil sector for its revenue generation. However, this started to change from 2015. So taking the 2014 data as a baseline, oil collection was 2.4 trillion, whereas non-oil was 2.2 trillion. Now in 2015, then it began to change. Oil collection dropped to 1.2 trillion, while non-oil collection increased to 2.4 trillion. Now taking this to 2021, or maybe 2022, so that we don't bore us with numbers. In 2022, ending December 31, 2022, oil collection was a little over 4 trillion, whereas non-oil collection was 5.9 trillion. That's almost 6 trillion. And all of this we've experienced due to technology. It has played a key role in ensuring and sustaining this performance. There are other areas of our function that technology has also impacted, such as convenience to taxpayers who are now able to do a lot of their services using our electronic platforms. And that has also improved our service delivery to taxpayers. It has increased revenue generation as expected, as well as its capability. Capability, we are talking about staff capacity to generate revenue more effectively and efficiently. There's also automatic exchange of data. They can only be with other stakeholders or relevant stakeholders, and this can only be possible through technology. It has also simplified our reporting capabilities. It has reduced our cost of enforcing compliance, as well as improving staff efficiency. What has been the pros of the embracing emerging technology? One, we would like to speak from our taxpayers' perspective. Our taxpayers are having better experience. We provide, we have also enabled our customer contact center where taxpayers can call from every part of the world to speak directly to a person and make inquiries. And the contact center is multilingual. It currently can communicate with English, Pidgin, Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, as well as French and Arabic. We have also enabled all our social media platforms. All of these are giving the taxpayers and other stakeholders a much, much better experience in interacting with the tax administration. It has also enabled communication both external and internal. I have just mentioned about the contact center and the websites. However, on internal, we also have the intranet, as well as a very effective emailing platform. We have group platforms called Info, which we use to communicate with staff. And these are all available on all smartphones currently. We have also increased employee productivity. By employee productivity, you're looking at different areas, functional areas like HCM, F&A, and internal audit. With HCM, staff emoluments that used to carry papers back and forth from head office to all the regional offices country-wise in paper format, and then back to the head office, and in events, some get missing, some are not missing, can now be done online. The last experience for staff was very encouraging. F&A, I'm sure if you say you remove automation from them today, how do you feel about it? And also it has made internal audit much, much more seamless. For the tax field offices in the past that used to come to headquarters with requests for whatever information that they require, can now get information on taxpayers within minutes without having to recourse to the head office or make such requests from head office. So information is now at the fingertips. We're not there yet. We're still work in progress, but just highlighting some of the impacts it's had on us, both external and internal. What has been the cons? First is digital security. For one to deploy emerging technology, you have to pay very serious attention to digital security. It has been known to have destructive potentials. There is also the digital media manipulation. Some people having information now at their fingertips and beginning to misuse some of that information and using them to spread false information so as to manipulate. There is also the case of adoption. For any new technology to be adopted and begin to be used effectively and efficiently as it's aimed to do, there has to be a very strong change management strategy in place that will ensure that adoption of the new technology is taken on board and is taken on course as soon as it's implemented or operationalized so as to realize the benefits. Some of the challenges we've had during the implementation, mainly, like I mentioned earlier, under the cons, is the resistance to change. You must, from forefront, begin to work your change management strategy so that you would manage the change better once you operationalize. There is also the IT skill gap. How do you begin to equip your people, build their capacity to be able to manage the new technology being implemented? Also, you have to deal with multiple vendors and systems because there's no single off-the-shelf system that will resolve all your tax administration processes. Technology is also constantly evolving, so you have to have your people ready to adapt as soon as the changes happen. Technology also, at the end of the day, you ask yourself how much. The investments can be expensive, not just to procure, but also to maintain. And there's also the continuous evolution of needs, legislation, and processes of which you also have to continuously be abreast with so that you stay in tune with developments. I've mentioned the case of security from the earlier on. So security is very key. In short, to test the security of your system, not just internal, but external, not just in Nigeria, but across the world. What we did was to actually have a situation where we are testing from every of the continents, just in case, and that doesn't mean that you're not still also continuously improving of what you have implemented. You're continuing because there are new threats that comes on a daily basis. There are people who are just focused, that's all they want to do to break that system. So you also have to keep your people on their toes to watch out for security breaches. For our core solution, which is the TaxProMax, this is just to give a high-level roadmap on what we plan to do in between January this year and then December of 2023. In January to March, we promised to, or we outlined to implement the automatic tax clearance certificate, which we have done. It went live January 1st, 2023. We also plan to operationalize the tax audit and investigation module, which we have done. We've completed the user acceptance test. We've actually gone live March 1st. However, we know there's a need to train the officers on the new module. So there's a plan by the project team members to go to all the tax offices across the country to actually do a hands-on training with all the officers. Thereafter, we can then continue with Zoom training, but there has to be so that we will overcome the initial teething issues we had when we first went live on the other modules. We don't want to have that happening for these two modules that have just been operationalized. Call it lessons learned. As we progress, we learn the lessons and we make adjustments. The automated input VAT claim is also operationalized. We are currently integrating with the sectors that will have automated VAT collection data tracking at source. Hopefully, by the beginning of next quarter, that's Q2, we would have connected with the few sectors that we have currently, we would have integrated with the few sectors that we have automated. We plan to do a self-service taxpayer registration come Q2, as well as the petroleum profit tax module, and also the integration with GIFMIS. We did have integration with GIFMIS in the past, and that's why we call it reintegration. But that integration had worked two ways for us that we are currently not integrated. And that is, it was initially integrated to web portal. And we're currently depending on TaxProMax for most of the data that we're using for receiving the GIFMIS data as payments are made. That's on one point. And the other is that GIFMIS had upgraded, and that threw us off with that integration. However, we are currently in discussion with Office of Accountant General, and very soon, and that's why we put it on that in Q2, we will achieve that reintegration. Hopefully, by the end of Q2, we would have fully deployed all the tax modules on TaxProMax, and then commence integration with third party in Q3. Then by Q4, we would then have the business analytics operationalized, and then begin to rework the interface redesign based on the feedback we're getting from stakeholders. That's the taxpayers themselves, and then the tax officers in FRS. So one of the things to note is that to achieve a successful implementation of this roadmap, we'll have to have engagement activities carried out simultaneously throughout the year. That is from January to December. And some of those activities include user support. We are redesigning our user support procedure, where we are having the TaxProMax focal officers in all the tax offices provide the first line support. It is in their failure to resolve. They were having an initial KPI of 40% for them. They should be able to resolve at least 40% of the issues they receive from each of the tax offices that they man. And then the 60% of it that goes to the second line support, we're hoping that they will then resolve about 40%. So we don't see the development team resolving more than 20% of the issues that are coming up. And most of those should be something to do with development. We are also going to be engaging actively with change management, working as change management strategy as has been defined and approved. And then the major issue for us is stabilization. We've achieved a high percentage of stabilization, if you recall where we were about 1 year ago. So that's, we then ask ourselves, what then is the path to successful automation in public sector? It is complex. It requires legislative support. Most of what we are able to achieve today with regards to the automation, especially with sectoral automation, has been through the Finance Act. So you must watch out, especially the public sector agencies that wants to go through this route. What we say, and when we all meet at FIRS, is that it may be too much to imagine a future where people enjoy paying their taxes. We are imagining that future. With a successful implementation of the FIRS 4 cardinal goals and the digital transformation, we believe that FIRS is gearing towards a future where taxpayers will be delighted to pay their taxes without anybody wielding the big stick for them to comply. So that is my presentation, and I am happy to take any questions that may arise from it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for that wonderful presentation. I want to believe our participant has been greatly enriched in terms of knowledge as regards some of the digital innovations that the service has embarked on. Maybe after the second presentation, we're going to take some live questions. We also want to crave your indulgence, ma'am, if you can have the slides. Some of our participants are asking for the presentation slides. So if you can avail us of the slides, ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay, I'll send it to Mr. Wisdom.
All right, ma'am. Thank you very much. Before I invite the second speaker, as you all know, our executive chairman is both customer-centric at the same time data-centric. So before we invite Mr. Sali Olarewaju, the Deputy Director, Intelligence Strategic Data Mining Department, who will be taking us through some of the innovations as regards the data mining, I would like to recognize Mr. Femi Olarinde, my colleague who is joining us, especially in diaspora. Mr. Femi Olarinde.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And it's a pleasure to be here. As usual, we've been hosting this program for a while. And today is the first edition for the year 2023. And you heard Madam speaking about the digital innovations. And this is falling back on when my executive chairman was speaking. You know, on assumption of office in 2019, he came up with 4 cardinal goals, which he spoke about rebuilding FIRS institutional framework, collaboration with stakeholders, making FIRS a customer-centric institution, and making FIRS a data-centric institution. And in a bid to further on his vision of the goal of customer-centric, the board has created this digital innovation support group from the SY modernization group, and which have been coming up with innovation. And you know, there's nothing about you having an idea or you having a goal without somebody to help you push your goal. A leader is a person who identifies the right person, put the square peg in a square hole. And I'm sure when you heard Madam speaking, you know, she's actually the general that was identified for all this digital innovation, because of course, what is a turbo engine car without a Schumacher on the wheel? Madam Chiaka was not, I would like to, for those who don't know her, so that you will understand what those things she has been speaking about. Madam Chiaka Ben-Obi, who is the group lead digital innovation support group, is information in 2022 has won award on Isaka Technology for Humanity Award 2022, Isaka She Leads Tech Award 2022, and the Corporate Woman in Excellence in Information Technology. And all this, we can say, is the sheer provision of the leadership given by our amiable leader, Mr. Mohammed Nami. And so I want to urge all the taxpayers to also look ahead in the new year. And she has told us what they'll be doing. And you know, you say talk is cheap. However, when it comes from the right person, be sure that it will happen. And FRS is making taxpaying culture in Nigeria a new thing on a new level. And on this note, I welcome everyone once more to this program as we continue. And we'll be inviting other speakers to join us. Thank you, Mr. Wisdom. You can continue to sail the ship. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Femi, for that wonderful remarks.
Thank you, Femi.
You're welcome, huh?
At this junction, I will invite Mr. Sali Olarewaju, the Deputy Director, Data Mining Department, to take us through his presentation. Mr. Olarewaju, your answer.
Thank you and good morning, all.
Good morning.
Yeah, I still stand on existing protocol. I recognize our chief host, the EC, as well as other directors and the panelists, our esteemed taxpayers and stakeholders. This morning, as we have been introduced, I will be talking about the data aspects of the digital innovation in tax administration. We are all aware that in recent times, we have started using data as a means of decision-making in FRS, which is the data-centric aspects of the service. And this brings us to the aspect of data determining decision-making in FRS and our relation with other institutions. I will be running through a few slides to explain this. We have so much dependent on technology in FRS in recent times due to some of the things that we have done. And the scope of this presentation will be to share the effort of FRS in recent years to be data-centric. This has resulted into the creation of a full-blown new department, the Intelligence, Strategic Data Mining, and Analysis Department. This department is saddled with the responsibility of pulling all taxpayer information and making it usable for the service. Some of the reforms that we have gone through has also already been mentioned by the GL, and so I will not spend much time running us through the initiatives. I will just show us briefly a little chart that talks about the summary of the automation processes that we have gone through. And I will also point our attention particularly to some of the changes in the terrain. Of course, we know that when the beatings changes, definitely the song and the dancing will have to change. So in the process of our modernization, we had various regimes. One of them was the self-assessment regime, which has empowered the taxpayer to file and make payments, and which give them the freedom, as the chairman have said, to make payment of tax as easy as possible for them. This also now gives us the challenge of coming up with assessing and ensuring that the information submitted to FRS is correct and that it's reflective of the transactions and the economic activities of the taxpayers on the basis of which profit and taxation is computed. So that has helped us using data to assess the taxpayers. This gave us a justification for the department. The number of the in the taxnet has been very low. Many companies and enterprises that are doing businesses resulting into huge transactions in the banks and also in financial gateways were not paying enough taxes. So we see that the total taxes that are collected year on year compared to the economic activities of some taxpayers, we see that they are not reflective of what they are supposed to pay. We also, on the positive note, to also say that we can also use our data to appreciate our taxpayers that are complying. We use the data to assure that those that are paying their taxes are also rewarded and recognized. Our vision is to provide actionable intelligence in our department in order to enhance tax revelation, revenue collection, and make FRS a data-centric organization. Our mission is to increase tax compliance using cutting-edge technology to analyze the taxpayers' data in order to provide 360-degree visibility into taxpayer financial transactions. You see that this information is useful for ensuring that our relation with taxpayers is based on facts and verifiable information. Our responsibilities include to collaborate with stakeholders to secure access to payments, marketing, switching and invoicing platforms so that we have relevant data for tax purposes, as well as establish and maintain logs of transactions carried out on electronic platforms in a structured manner. We also are involved in obtaining, collecting, and warehousing data in respect of transactions carried out on digital marketing. We link this data obtained to existing taxpayers to identify transactions, incomes, and payments. We also are creating the data warehouse for all third-party data resources, including but not limited to banks. We have the NCS, Nigeria Customs, NIMS, NIMSI, CAC, Stock Exchange, and all other relevant financial data for purpose of having a 360-degree visibility on taxpayers. We are also the custodian of all taxpayer data, both historical, transactional, and non-transactional. Other things we do include to interpret results of analysis carried out on the data collected from the platforms for tax purposes. We communicate our findings to tax offices for risk assessment, audit case selection, and tax compliance. Also, we are involved in enterprise-level database management, as well as operational report production and periodic review of FRS data for security policy and data privacy framework. What are the activities that we carry out on a daily basis include tactical analysis. We use the technology that we have as we receive requests from tax offices, we analyze data of taxpayers that we receive to determine their liabilities to the tax authority. We see that we have an application to interface with tax offices, which is the analyst portal. The application, you can make your request from the application. This is for the tax offices anyway, and we'll receive it, process it, send it back to you through the application. Also, other things we do include strategic analysis, which is quantitative analysis of aggregate data to determine the short and long-term patterns of tax payments or underpayment or tax evasion, as the case may be. We also carry out predictive analysis, where we identify the likelihood of future outcomes based on historical data. We use machine language and other algorithms to carry out this analysis that enables the FRS to know or predict the volume of collection and patterns of payment expected from taxpayers. Currently, we carried out a particular predictive analysis that showed us what we are expecting as tax payments for the various tax types for the next 5 years. We have sectoral analysis. Of course, we know that FRS is currently focusing on some of the sectors that are coming up and booming, like the telecommunication. And so we carry out by size, by demography, and other economic dimensions on these sectors. And we bring out comparisons from each sector that can show us the economic activities on which tax will be charged. We also carry out cluster analysis for where we gain insight into the distribution of data to identify groups that have similar characteristics. These are some of the services that we render, where we use digital trends and opportunities, and we use technologies like the social media, the mobility, cloud computing, big data analytics, artificial intelligence particularly, Internet of Things, augmented reality, and virtual reality to carry out our activities. Before I conclude on this presentation, I will just show us a few statistics of some figures that show that if we analyze the correct data, and if data is seen as the oil or gold, we'll see that the data analytics environment will be the refinery. And when it's refined and it comes out, then we see the true picture of the taxes that are to be paid. For instance, in 2019, the number of active bank customers, individual only, was 73.2. Total number of banks accounts was 124.8 million. And we see other facts that shows the details of current accounts and other corporate accounts and individual accounts as given us by names. We show us the number of people that are banking in Nigeria. Also, we looked at e-payments as regards to interbank industry for January 2020 to August 2020, which shows a huge sum, both in volume and in value. In volume, for instance, checks were 11.
You have 3 minutes more, please. Help us speak to the people.
11,612,206. But we see that the value is very huge, which is about 9 trillion. We see ATM transactions, and these transactions totaling a huge figure has multiplied as we speak today. We can also see from here analysis of potential tax revenue that we'll have gotten in 2019 from these transactions. If we just estimate that only 25% of these transactions above 10,000 are taxable, we'll see that a huge amount will have been collected. Other data we have at our disposal include subscribers to teledensity data.
So, Mr. Alaya,
people are subscribing into these services. We also have a kind of a percentage of the market share by operator of the major GSM operators in Nigeria. You can see MTN leading. And this comparison can show us the expectation of tax that we want from, that we expect from each of the operator. We also have internet subscribers in the country. And of course, these figures, as a result of changes in technology and all the policies going on in the financial sector, has even increased and multiplied today. And when these data are analyzed and used, we see that they will bring out the taxes that are to be paid. Now, if we continue to analyze this data, where do we want to be and what is our aim? We see that we can see what happened yesterday. Use it to find out why did it actually happen. We'll make a discovery of that. Then we'll use it to find out a business intelligence, what is going to happen, what is happening right now. And we see in predictive analysis, we'll find out what will happen tomorrow. In terms of the figures, we can start looking into the future and we can prescribe to the service what we expect in the future. We see finally that all at the end of our integration, which is still ongoing, we see a lot of organizations and institutions, both government and private, that we want to pull into our database. We see CBN, we see banks, JTB, CAC, and all that we have here. This is where we are going to.
Are we
and
together?
we see that at the end of that, data will be a useful tool in determining the taxes that we collect from our taxpayers. The department is to utilize scientific and empirical data analysis to substantially increase tax revenue. And we need to collect data from as many sources. And as we do that, I'm very confident that together we can make a positive impact on tax revenue generation and eliminate the need for excessive external borrowing to fund government deficit budgets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Olarinde, for that presentation. This junction will go to the highlights of updated VAT filing procedures on TaxProMax. And I have the pleasure to invite Mr. Alaya of TaxProMax to walk us through that. Mr. Alaya, are you on?
Yes, good morning, sir. I'm here, sir.
All right, go ahead, please. Go ahead, please.
Kindly permit me to share my screen for everyone to see. I hope you can all see the screen, right?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Chairman. Our group lead here present, directors, our esteemed taxpayers, and my senior colleagues. My name once again is Alaya Abdulazeez. I am from the TaxProMax project team, and I'll be taking us through the updated VAT filing process on the TaxProMax. Now, the value-added tax, as we all know, is a statutory returns which is to be filed or not before the 21st day of the succeeding month of the transactions, and the FIRS has implemented the filing module of this over time. Now, with the implementation of the solution, the FIRS has collected over ₦1 trillion VAT revenue in the year 2021. I'm not even referring to 2022 now. But the updated VAT filing procedure on the TaxProMax, this is necessitated by the automation of the input-output mechanism. We currently know that when you file your returns, after declaring what your sales is, you are to also declare what your purchases is. Thereby, the system is going to calculate what the outputs and the inputs figure will be. By doing so, the system also goes further to deduct the input from the output and gives you what is to be paid. But it is necessary for us to also be able or have a means of verifying or validating the input tax claimed by taxpayers. aside the inputs incurred as at the point of purchasing, and as well that from that which comes from the MDAs and those in the oil and gas who are saddled with their responsibilities. So however, in the new modification, every taxpayer is expected to upload the sales schedules and provide the tax identification number of the customers while filing. By doing so, everyone or every other taxpayer that's associated with that sales, as we know that somebody's input is another person's output. So everyone will be able to claim their verified input VAT. So these are the some of the most important things to note. There is currently provisions for sales schedules, which requires every taxpayer to fill in those who they deal with, the people you have provided services to, the people you have sold goods to, and whether it is VATable, whether it is zero rated, or whether it is exempted. All that will be seen on the schedule. Now, the VAT credit can also be carried forward and be refunded upon request. Sales adjustment can be done in subsequent filing. Input VAT claim is now automated. So I'm going to be showing us the demonstration of how this will be done when it is eventually deployed. Now, first, like we know, we all come to the TaxProMax as taxpayers to file our returns. I'm going to be using one of the taxpayers' details for us to see. Now, this is the dashboard of a typical taxpayer. So I come to the taxes due. I have the VAT for February, I have the VAT for March. Note that you cannot process the later VAT if the earlier one is yet to be processed. So we'll start with the February one. Now, unlike what we had before, where you have goods and services for exempt, we have zero rated, we have sales adjustment and the VAT form. Now, under the sales schedule, we now have where you can download the sample templates and impute your figures. So if you download, it's going to come out, but let's add some things to what we currently have. So the sample template is actually in an Excel, just like you know what we use currently in the area of filing our withholding VAT and the withholding tax. So upon uploading the documents, the system is going to validate the details against the TIN provided for each of the taxpayers. So I have a webinar saved. Then once I open it, I'm going to upload the schedule. Once I upload the schedule, the system is going to verify and validate all the information that is on that schedule. And it's going to provide me with the details and the description as stated in the schedule. So at this point, if there is any error in any of these, I can easily just remove any one of them. Say, for example, I have this. You can see I have, because I already inputted it before. So I can remove one of the items on the schedule. Then you can see this as well. So having done that, the next is to select, it's going to give us the total amount of the VAT. And you can see the legends that we have here. We have those that are VATable is this amount. Those that are zero rated is this amount. Those that are exempted is also this. Then you select Naira. As we currently know, TaxPro processes Naira denominated transactions for now. Very soon, the foreign currency loan is going to be done. Next is to click on proceed. Then we proceed. This is where we're supposed to have our purchases. Now, Say, for example, let me go back. If I am taxpayer A and I have bought goods from taxpayer B, when taxpayer B files its own returns and fill in the information on the sales schedule, whatever that relates to me as taxpayer A is going to populate here from all the sources that where I have had purchases from. So here we have the sales adjustments. Now it says enter item code. Now when you submitted your previous returns, you needed to make adjustments for any one of them. In the concluded assessment, you have an ID for each of the item that is purchased. And if there is need for us to make an adjustment for it, you just copy only the ID, put it here, you search for it, and it's going to bring the record for you. Then proceed, then it takes us to the VAT form itself. Now it gives us the total sales, it gives us the total that are exempted, total that are zero rated. Then if the sales adjustment is going to also give us the value. Then we have the sales and income that is chargeable to tax, which is those that are VATable. So you can see that the system has calculated the output VAT for us. And for purchases that were not wholly used in making VATable, you can still fill it. I believe we are also used to this form by now, because this has been on for the past 3 or 4 years. So having done that, the system does what? Including for the MDAs, we know before now you are expected to impute your deducted VAT at source on line 190. So upon the filing by the MDAs as well, so those figures is going to populate here for you to be able to offset to be able to claim your inputs from the output that is calculated. Then we come here and click on the declaration. So it tells you that please check the amount to be paid is this amount. If the amount is not correct, please do not submit. So because over time, we've had people writing to the service claiming that they have submitted some returns in error, especially when it comes to VAT. We have put in place a lot of checks to ensure, aside the fact that the system has done all the calculation for you, upon declaring, we've also ensured that the system also gives to you the amount that you are expected to pay. And now, upon agreeing to this, then you are expected to pay that amount. So then the next is to submit. Having submitted is going to take you to the point of payment. Now, you can see that at this point, I have the LRP, I have interest and penalty, because the system has been so designed in such a way that when returns are filed late or after the due date, the system takes into account the interest and penalty that is associated with such returns, and thereby does the calculation in line with the provisions of the law and in line with the CBN rates. Please let us also note that this VAT is to be taken off from April filing, so we should be expecting it any moment from now to be deployed. So if I'm to pay, I just click on remitter, generate my payment reference number, go online and do my payments, either pay online or go to the bank. So all the payments that have been made on your behalf will be transmitted to your filing by April. You're going to all have that. So this is just the updates that we currently have on the VAT. It is still work in progress, like we all know, and there's room for lots of improvements. So we welcome your suggestion, your area of improvements, and so on. So I'll be handing over to my colleague, Mr. Halilu, to take us through the process of generating our tax clearance certificates in 1 minute, which is one of the best things that has happened to Nigeria in recent time. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alaya, for that wonderful presentation. Mr. Halilu, over to you, please, to take us through the highlights on your tax clearance certificate in 1 minute. Mr. Halilu.
Oh, yeah. Good afternoon. I think it's now afternoon, right? Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, our coordinators, directors, and our moderators, everybody here present. My name is Halilu Haruna. I'm here to present the automatic TCC. Now, as we all know, TaxProMax is a flagship of the FIRS. Now, which is a full tax administrative solution, which provides ease of registration, filing, and making payment from the comfort of your zone. Okay. Now, the automatic TCC, as we all say, one minute TCC. It's an update of. Okay, permit me to share my screen, please. Now, the automatic TCC is an update of the existing TCC we have on TaxProMax. The idea is for taxpayers to be able to reduce that contract between FIRs and the taxpayers, to provide an efficient way of getting their TCC and to promote transparency between taxpayers. Now, so far, this is what we have been able to do. Now, the tax, as we all know, tax clearance certificate is okay. This thing is getting, sorry, please. Okay. Tax clearance certificate is an official document which we know issued to a relevant tax authority to a taxpayer, satisfying that the tax assessed on the income from all sources of the taxpayer for the 3 years preceding the current year of the assessment has been fully paid. Now, this means that what we have done on the automated TCC is having your tax clearance certificate at the go, provided you have actually have all those 2 years account on the system. If you have those 2 years account, automatically you can just come to the system and click on it, and to give you your TCC as stated on what you have actually filed. Now, based on that, we have been able to do one or two things that will be able to make taxpayers have their access seamlessly. Now, these are some of the uses of tax clearance, which you all know, is to aid contract, use of security for CFO, other regulatory requirements, application of government loans. These are all some of the little things we get with our TCC. Now, precondition for obtaining TCC on the system is a tax clearance certificate shall be issued to a taxpayer that has complied with all tax obligations, as I said, for the 3 years preceding the current year. You need to have rendered your tax return to the FIRS for 3 years to be able to be eligible for the tax clearance certificate at a go. If not, you have to go back to your tax office to issue you this tax clearance certificate. How do you get tax clearance certificate on TaxProMax in 1 minute? You have to log in with your credentials, go to tcc.firs.gov.ng, apply for TCC, input your username and password, which most taxpayers have, log in, click on tax clearance certificate, automatically it will generate that tax clearance certificate for you. The TCC will be generated immediately as long as taxpayer does not have any pending self-assessment. Now, I'm going to share my screen, the online system we use so that taxpayers will see how this works. Now, as my colleague earlier demonstrated, we are using this particular taxpayer, Babangona Nigeria Limited. From Babangona's side, Babangona does not have any liability outstanding. So automatically he logs in, as I said earlier, he logs in with his credentials, coming in here, and he actually comes here, click tax clearance certificate. Immediately he does that, you see what he has now. Automatically it will tell him generate TCC. Now this is a caveat here. Due to the fact that this is a new process, the information online pertaining to 1 or 2 years, 2-year account. Hence, you may only find recent information on your TCC if you are successful. This will be updated momentarily. Kindly apply for tax clearance. Kindly apply from the tax office for completeness. Now, it means that if you have actually filed only 2 accounts or 1 account on the system, it means you can't get your whole 3 full years on the system. So you need to have to go to the office for them to do the needful by updating all the 3 years, preceding 3 years you have. Now, I just come here, click on generate TCC. If I click on it, now it will tell me notification. The TCC request has been granted. You have issued TCC for this year by just clicking this as a taxpayer. Now I'll come down here and view. I can see 31st December 2023, approved, and I can click on view. Now, if I click on view, it downloads the TCC certificate for a taxpayer to be able to see what he has. Okay. Now it opens. Now you can see this is what we have for this taxpayer. Name of the company, the date of incorporation, FIS ID, and business address. Now, from the information down, you'll find out that the assessment year for 2020, 2021, 2022, you find out for 2020, it's everything here is 0, that is nil. Then you have 2021, it's giving you figures for accessible profit or loss, now which is a loss. Then for 2022, it also gives you 0. Now, it ordinarily means, as it's stated, this taxpayer has only filed 1 account on the system, which is for 2020 account, which is 2021 year of assessment. Now, if what he's seen is not satisfied with, it means he has to go to the tax office for them to be able to upload all this information for these other 2 years and issue him another TCC. Basically, that is what we have for the updated TCC for now. Thank you very much. If we have any other questions, you can please forward them. Thank you.
Hello, please let me quickly add to what he said on the issue of TCC. So thank you for listening. It's one of the, like I said earlier, is one of the best things that has happened to FIRs in recent time. Aside that, on the issue of the updated VAT, which we just demonstrated to everyone, and we're still going to be having other sessions for us to see it step by step. And by then we'll be using more than just one taxpayer to do the demonstration, to the extent of where you see the taxpayer A who has made payment on behalf of, or who has made payment based on his own VAT filing, and other taxpayers who are associated from his own sale to his own sales. Like I said earlier, you know that when the sales of party A is going to be the input of party B, and we'll be able to see how that works. And we'll be doing that by early next month before the period of filing. So that we'll see it end to end, how it actually works. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Halilu and Mr. Alaya, for that wonderful section. I want to believe our taxpayers, has been greatly impacted on some of those innovative reforms that FRS is carrying out. At this junction, we're going to entertain some live questions. So for those that want to ask questions, you can signify by raising up your hands. So, Alaya Abdulazeez, I don't know if you are there. Alaya Abdulazeez. Please, you cannot talk. Go ahead, please. Alaya Abdulazeez, are you there, please? Okay, Aziz Maruf, are you there? Mr. Aziz Maruf. Naimot Ismail. Can you talk, please? Are you there? Your hands. Okay, it's like she's not there. Let's go to another person. Fumilola Ike Oguntoyibo, are you there? Fumilola Ike Oguntoyibo. Most hands are up. It's like they're not there. Let's go. Can't you allow them to talk? Dario Odeja, are you there?
Hello, good afternoon, Mr.
Good
Oshadare.
afternoon. Go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. Thank you once again for thank you for the opportunity. A quick one to get the TCC. So for a new company, apart from the necessary registration where you put in your details with the FRS, what else do you need to do to get a TCC? Given that you have all those historical details in terms of revenue and what have you for the past 3 years or so.
Sorry, can you come again? We're not hearing you.
So, okay, the question is for a new company.
Yeah.
So you won't have the historical data in terms of revenue and the profits and all the likes. So apart from registering your details with the FRS, what do you need to put forward to get the TCC, the online TCC?
Okay, thank you. We'll take another question. Mr. Said Sanu, are you there?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, first and foremost, I appreciate the development by the service. And of course, my own question will be in 2 ways. Number one is on the part of the purchases. Let's take as an example for manufacturing companies, which may at times get the input from, let's say, the non-corporate entities, that most of these non-corporate entities, at times they may not have anything to do with. Ordinarily, they should have something to do with FRS by filing their VAT, but at times in practice, we may see them not filing their returns with FRS, and of which they are my customer from which I get my input. And we are saying that if these people doesn't file their sales with FRS, how will it possible for me as a corporate entity to get input VAT in order to claim my input VAT? If these non-corporate entities, I mean individual and enterprises, from which I'm getting my input, my products, how can I get my input if these people fails to file VAT with FRS? Is there any measure to that from the FRS? That is number one. Then number two, you said on these same purchases, let's assume that part of my input is imported items from, let's say, from foreign companies. How can these foreign companies at times, of course, they don't have anything to do with Nigeria. I don't know, maybe you also have measures that will capture them for them to file this thing with FRS. I don't know, because this thing is what I need to claim my input VAT on. Is there any measure to capture all these people so that my, for instance, I will not be in jeopardy, or I will not be able to claim my input VAT if these people fails to file their own output VAT with FRS portal?
Thank you very much. Our TaxProMax team will respond to them. Let's take more questions so that we can respond to those questions. Oluwemimo Olalekan, are you there? Oluwemimo Olalekan, your hand is up. Are you there?
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, good afternoon. Thanks for the innovation from the TaxProMax team. The question I wanted to ask was asked by somebody before, and I can reframe the question. There are companies whose turnover is less than 25 million and is not requested to file a returns and want to apply for tax clearance certificate. So how will they able to get all this information on this TCC? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kayode, are you there? Mr. Kayode, are you there?
Yes, sir, I can hear you, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sir, my question is number one. On withholding, when we remit withholding and file on ProMax, the beneficiaries still come back to us and be requested for evidence of remittance. So, of course, we can't get credit note from our own end. So, I want to ask, what FIR is doing on that purpose? That I also believe that once we remit the beneficiary gets it immediately. So, how can we resolve that? Or what can be our response to our clients when that is being asked?
Sorry, there's a glitches. We didn't hear you clearly. Can you repeat again, please?
Okay. So I'm asking, my question is on withholding tax.
Yeah.
I hope you hear me now.
Yeah, we're hearing you now.
Okay, I'm asking you a question that once you remit withholding tax and you do your what's it called on ProMax, so the beneficiaries are meant to get their credit note, but now they come back to us that they don't have their credit note. We should be giving them evidence of payment. Same thing goes for VAT withheld. So what can we do on that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's take more questions so that. Ade Ayofe, are you there? Mr. Ade Ayofe. So how would the FRS action so that I will not be in double jeopardy? Vivian, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me the audience, and thank you, FRS, for the presentation and the updates. So my questions, I have 3 questions. One is similar to the one asked earlier. I wanted to know, is there an alternative mechanism for capturing purchases on TaxProMax? Assuming, for instance, I'm filing before my vendors, or my vendors have not updated their sales schedule. Is there an alternative mechanism? Could we also upload the purchases schedule, and would it be recognized for input tax or otherwise? Then secondly, I'd like to ask, I noticed that on the sales platform, you just have to upload your schedule, and I'm believing that the system will automatically extract the exempt services and the ones that are vatable. I'm not too sure, but I think that's what I noticed from that presentation. So I'm just wondering, what happens if that is the case? What happens where there are controversies around the vatability or exemption? For instance, exported services, there are some controversies around exported. If you're rendering it to, a fixed base here, does the system take care of those controversies? Assuming I upload and the system says it's not vatable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then second,
I mean now.
yeah.
Let me see.
Hello. Hello,
I
third.
should the senator. They only copy.
Hello.
Go
Okay,
ahead.
the third question is some people have less than 25 million turnover, but when they log into TaxProMax, they still see VAT accruing. And then sometimes or most times they see penalty accruing. So I'm just wondering whether the FRS has done anything via this update, to stem or mitigate that one, or whether there are alternatives. How can VAT stop accruing for people who are yet to make 25 million? What's the remedy? Thank you.
Mr. Said,
Yes, yes.
Good morning, sir. This is Vivian speaking.
Good morning.
Go ahead, please.
Good morning, sir. This is Vivian speaking. I think it was on your pad. I was the last speaker. So my question is very simple. If you register a business in 2012, and at that time the Finance Act wasn't in effect, and penalties would have accrued if you do not do your tax returns, what will be the position now if you want to regularize? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Please mute the person speaking.
Mr. Said, can you mute yourself, please?
Please mute him. You can remove him.
Okay, sorry.
Please remove all the people who have spoken.
Mr. Usman Haruna Mohammed, are you there? Mr. Kinyede Giwa, are you there? Akinyede Giwa, are you there? Ogbonaya, are you there? Obioma Ogbonaya, are you there? Good. Mr. Silvanus. Okay, maybe we should just respond to some of those questions asked. Mr. Alaya.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I don't know if you are jotting down those questions. Can you just respond to them, please?
Yes, sir. We'll do justice to the questions, sir.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, somebody asked about the issue. Can we mute the person talking, please?
Please remove everyone who has spoken. Mute all of them. Everybody.
You can mute everyone, then
Mute
I will mute
everybody.
myself, please. Mute everyone, then I will mute myself.
Now?
Please, if you're the one using TechnoSpark 7P, can you please mute yourself? All right, thank you. Somebody asked questions about a new business just commencing. Can you get TCC or not? Yes, you can get your tax clearance certificate as long as you've been registered on the TaxProMax and you have signified your commencement and your profile is active on the system. You can log in once you get your login details upon registration. You go to the tcc.firs.gov.ng, you log in, then you can generate your tax clearance certificates. Someone also asked about import VAT. There's still provision on the system where you can actually impute the VAT suffered at the point of importation. That is still being provided for. You have no cost, there's no cost for alarm on that. On withholding payments, somebody asked, when do I get my payments? I think the person is even an internal person. Upon the payments of withholding by party A on behalf of party B, C, and D, within 24 hours, the receipt is going to be sent to all the beneficiaries. Those you may be having, that the timeline may be more than that, are those who are applying from the tax office for unutilized credit notes. That we have a process for that, internal process. which has to get to the headquarters before it is processed. But any payments or withholding made, initiated and completed on TaxProMax, every beneficiary is going to get their credit notes and receipts within 24 hours of payments. And on somebody asked about, is there an alternative for capturing of purchases? Please, it is important for us to note that we are all stakeholders in this, both the taxpayers, both the FIRS, and even the citizens of Nigeria in helping government raise revenue. Whoever you are dealing with, whoever you are transacting with, please let them know that it is important they also comply, so you can also get your own impute VAT that you have incurred through the purchases you are making from them. If all of us take that responsibility as citizens to say, I am a business A, I am dealing with you, business B, please, I am going to be complying with the provisions of the tax laws to filing my returns as and when due. Also ensure that since I am making purchases from you and I'm incurring impute, which I am to claim at the point of filing my own returns, also ensure that you comply. Let that be that conditions. Otherwise, I'm going to look for someone else who is a compliant company. I don't think any company actually wants to be labeled as non-compliant anyway. So that's about that. For those, somebody asked questions about those with less than 25 million turnover, and they are still expected to file. Now, if your company has a turnover less than 25 million, the system is not, I repeat, the system is not going to charge you any penalty, even if you filed it late. Because we have to allow for those, because some taxpayers have actually written to the service that they be allowed to make their filing of VAT, so that eventually when they get to that threshold, it will no longer be an issue for them to comply with filing payments. So if your turnover is less than 25 million, you still go onto the system, filing your VAT, put all your records as new, then you can proceed. The system is not going to charge you, irrespective of the time that you file. However, if you've made any filing that amounts to above 25 million naira, say for example, your CIT is above 25 million, and let us also understand what the 25 million entails. It does not mean 25 million at a go. If your turnover is 10 million, in the first instance, subsequently is 15 million, you've already reached 25 million within that year. Not that, okay, I always have less than 20 million on a monthly basis, and you're saying I am not up to 25 million. Please, it's a cumulative figure, not a one-off thing. Then someone asked a question about registering a company in 2012 and it's not been complying, and the person wants to comply now. Even if the VAT form is given to you as of today to file for 2012, the system is only going to charge you based on the rates that is applicable at that time. I think, which is 2012, 2013, until the coming into force of the Finance Act, which increased the rate from 5% to 10%, and even including the LRP. The LRP applicable at that time of 5,000 naira is what is applicable until the year where it is amended to 50,000 and 25,000 subsequent months. So thank you.
So if I may provide some support, Mr. I guess that's a question that you missed. Somebody asked if it's an enterprise or an individual who he did business with that incur impute VAT. And so he should have the opportunity to also be able to take the VAT. So the question that I would like the person to know is that if you're dealing with a person who is an individual of enterprise, once it's less than 25 million, you are not expected to pay VAT to the person. We have what we call the self-account, which you are expected to do. So I'm sure you may need to check, except if the FRS have so appointed such person to collect. So it's needed, there's need to get a clarity on that, and so that taxpayer will understand how the system runs. And I felt I should just bring that in. And it's good, like you said, that it's important that when you are doing business with someone, you should ensure that taxes deducted from you as a taxpayer is well remitted. So, and only, that is the only time you can get value and input for the tax so deducted. Thank you.
To add to that, on the issue of the enterprise whose turnover is less than 25 million that you are dealing with, just like the tax law has provided for, if it is a big taxpayer that is dealing with a small taxpayer, you resort into self-charge. You are not expected to charge that small taxpayer any VAT whatsoever, because they are exempted from payment of such. So you do the self-charge and remit the amount of charge, the amount of VAT that you are supposed to pay, or that you are supposed to have paid in the absence of that amendment. Thank you for the federal support, Mr. Olarinde.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Mr. Femi and Mr. Alaya. We'll take more questions. Mr. Babatunde Yunus, are you there?
Yes, I am here, Mr. Wisdom.
Ask your questions, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to appreciate the management of FRS for giving us this opportunity to share our minds with the people who are in charge of the governance of FRS. So, Mr. Chairman, permit me on already established protocol. Mine is not actually a question. There are comments, contributions, and observations. So to start with, I want to say that when you have a very good policy in place as the people that are in charge of this FRS, if people or the staff are not aligning themselves with this policy, it will end up or amount to nothing at the end of the day. And what do I mean by that? I want to pick it one after the other. Talking about the issuance of the tax clearance at a click on the TaxProMax is a very good development. However, recently we had an issue that the tax clearance was even automatically issued, having filed for the last 3 years. But we noticed that there are errors on the tax clearance. So upon getting to the FRS to complain, instead of them to upload and correct these errors, they asked us to apply physically, manually, which we did. And this took us another 2, 3, 4 weeks before the tax clearance were uploaded. So that is one. If FRS are doing this at the upper level, and you are not checking what is happening at the state level, local government level, it will still look as if we are not making efforts. So on this very note, I want to advise that similar platforms should be organized between the FRS and the core tax consultants this time around, so that we can share our view with you. I want to believe that this is a feedback, and feedback is very, very important because it's going to help the FRS in improving on some of these things or activities that is going on. Having said that, on the issue of withholding tax, recently also, we wanted to file returns, believing that our clients have suffered or the withholding tax has been deducted as source. But unfortunately, we could not find the withholding tax on the TaxProMax. We were asked to write letter to the head office. Thank God I have a branch in Abuja. So I had to go to your office and submit a letter. Eventually, they uploaded it. And what they uploaded, they even asked us to bring all the GMIX evidence of deductions and all that. So I want to believe that this is supposed to be done automatically. But I believe that the service is working endlessly to improve on that. Also, the issue of value-added tax. Like we all know, or let me take us to our elementary tax principle of taxation that talks about this type of tax, value-added tax system. We have VAT inclusive and VAT exclusive. There are some organizations that do or practice VAT inclusive, in the sense that when you are selling, I want to include I want to put or embedded my in my selling price, so as not to chase away the customer, in the sense that if, for instance, I have many competitors, I can decide to say, okay, my own price, I will not put the VAT, separate from the selling price. I want to put it together. While filing, or when the value added on the TaxProMax, this is not being considered. So I want to advise that we should try and do something on giving room for the VAT inclusive. Then also, I want to finally say this so that I can allow other people to talk. In order to achieve things to be done rightly, I believe at this point we have to be looking at what we call code of ethics. Majorly, and I want to say this, and I believe many consultants that are here present will also agree with me that these have been jettisoned. I will not say in totality, but the issue of code of ethics, we need to look into it. We need to check it, how our staff are doing in terms of looking at the ethics, code of ethics. Because you need to consider this. Like I used to say, where the job of accountant ends, that is where the job of the tax practitioner or tax administrator, even an auditor, will start. Because without financial statements, I doubt if the tax officer can lay hands on any issue that has to do with tax or raising or assessing any taxpayers. So on this note, I want to advise that the staff should be more familiar with the accounting standards, because these accounting standards were used in preparing the financial statement. I've seen a situation whereby one of your colleagues or a staff of FRS, so to say, is still talking about turnover, whereas there is nothing like that in accounting standards. In fact, we have a letter from FRS that shows turnover. I told him, I said, there is nothing like turnover in their financial statement would be prepared. Rather, we have revenue, and this is covered with International Financial Reporting Standard 15. So, and so many other things. So that is why at this point, I want to suggest, let there be a kind of an interactive section between the service and the consultants, so that we can lay down some of these things, believing that we are all working towards the same goal. Thank you very much, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yunus. We appreciate your contribution, and that is noted. We still take more questions.
Okay.
Mr. Wisdom, I think there are some questions in what he just commented, which we need to respond.
Yes, though I have some questions that they sent in before. Ask them. Mr. Alaya, are you listening?
Yes, I'm here, please.
Okay. Somebody asked, why is it that you cannot work out VAT credit on TaxProMax? That is one. Why is it that you cannot work out VAT credit on TaxProMax? The second one is how can we make payment from GIFMI's platform and upload our VAT and withholding through TaxProMax, just like Remitter platform? Then another question is, what measures is FRS putting in place to fast track linking GIFMI's payment on TaxProMax? Then finally, we have how do we get the printout of credit notes of withholding paid before July 2020? Or the value credited to our FRS ledger balance. So these are some of the major questions we would like you to respond to. Thank you.
On the first question, which was asked, like you said, that is what we're starting with by next month, which is April. on the issue of impute VAT from other sources as well, or whatever impute that has been incurred by way of the transactions that the taxpayer has had. And on the issue of gift-miss, the gift-miss matter is even currently being handled by the management of the service. We all know that gift-miss is a platform. It's also a government payment platform that is under the control of the Accountant General of the Federation. On the issue of the integration with the TaxPro, it is still a work in progress. And once we've concluded on that, every remittances from gift-miss, be it the withholding VAT or the withholding tax, will all flow into TaxProMax seamlessly. Mr. Ismail mentioned something about the issue of TCC while he was making his observations. One thing I want to establish is that we have processes for the administration of withholding. For every remittance of withholding on behalf of the beneficiaries that is initiated and concluded on TaxProMax, I think I've mentioned this before, but I need to reiterate it. It will be available for the taxpayers within 24 hours. That I can assure you. However, if you have credit notes that predates the implementation of the TaxProMax, the process is that you will apply through your tax office, who are the custodian of your manual file, who can establish which credit note has been used and which is yet to be used. When that is done, there is going to be a reconciliation between the consultant or the taxpayer and the tax office. They collate the withholding credits that are yet to be processed and sent to the headquarters for processing. So that may take some time. So I want to just plead with him that we need to understand that these are the processes that is on ground. But any credits that is initiated on TaxPro is automatic, is automated. The payer is going to get a payment receipt, while the beneficiary is going to get a credit note on that. So thank you.
So Mr. Wisdom, before you, maybe I need to also come in. Mr. Ismail, I understand and thank you for your comments. I would like to an intervention here too. You spoke about VAT inclusive. I'd like you to understand that taxation is actually law. And whatever we practice is based on the provision of the law. The process of VAT inclusive is not recognized by the VAT Act. If you go to section 13A of the VAT Act, it specifies how you should charge VAT, and it says you should clearly state it after stating the amount of your transaction before you state that. And also, when you talk about the issue of turnover, please also refer to the provisions of the law, irrespective of the fact that the accounting standard does not speak about turnover. The tax law, specifically section 30, gives the power to the service to assess tax on turnover. It's very clear. Also, in charge of minimum tax, what you also consider is gross turnover. So these are the provisions of the law, and I'm sure those are the provisions our staff are trying to implement. However, if I'm not saying that there are situations whereby staff may not have some shots coming, but I'm sure if you call our attention to that, that will be addressed. But I just need to put these two issues you raised in a better perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Femi, for that wonderful contribution. Our time is fast spent. In absence of any further contribution or questions, I will have the privilege to welcome the Director of Taxpayer Service Department to give our closing remarks so that we can put this webinar session to a close. Thank you. And Director.
I thank the Executive Chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Mohammed Nami, for his unwavering support towards the organization and sustenance of this webinar series. Thank you, dear taxpayers, for joining and listening to and engaging with us in this webinar. Your participation always makes the webinar robust and interactive. I also thank Group Lead Digital and Innovative Support Group, Mrs. Chiaka Ben-Obi, and the Deputy Director Intelligence, Strategic and Data Mining, Mr. Olarinde, for attending this webinar and providing great insight. I'm also grateful to our panelists, Mr. Alaya and Mr. Haruna, for their wonderful wealth, sharing their wealth of experience and knowledge and providing clarifications to our esteemed taxpayers. Thank you, our moderators, for a job well done. I am hoping this series has contributed to your knowledge of the digital innovations that the Federal Inland Revenue Service has introduced to enable the ease of tax administration in Nigeria, which will translate into improved revenue generation and voluntary tax compliance. Please be reminded that the Federal Inland Revenue Service Contact Center of Haruna. For all your inquiries, then you can contact us through this number 094 6027 for any of our social media handles. Thank you all. God bless you all. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It pays tax.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That closing remarks. Once again, we thank all the taxpayers, the general public, for finding out time out of their busy schedules to join this webinar section. And we hope whenever the subsequent editions, you will find out time to join us. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Maria.